I'm TheCommissar. We're watching Forged Alliance Forever, and you might like to see top-tier tactics, super strategy, and pro play. But today, we're going to watch some lower-rated legends, players who are up-and-coming, players who haven't yet got everything quite down pat. However, it's all good fun, and that's why we're going to watch it, so let's get stuck in. We have the hot team in the north, and we have the cold team in the south. And let's meet our low-rated legends on the hot team first. Up here, in the corner, we have my friend dBerserkerb. He is 983 rated and Seraphim in Burgundy. Now, I train with this guy a bit, and I have good respect for his skills, so I could expect to see him carry the game here. Let's see what happens. In the front position, we have the lowest rated of the game's low rated legends. This is Sakol, 307 rated and UEF. He's in orange. And in what, looking at the distribution of mexes, is almost certainly the carry slot, this is Jim Raynor, 723 rated and Cybran, in red. And on the other team, in this corner, we have ExVORon, who is 730 rated and Seraphim. He's in dark blue. And he's opened first air, which is an interesting choice. He has got tree claim around, so I don't think it's that bad a choice. But will he be able to make use of it? In the forward position, this is krisxz, who is 691 rated in UEF, in mauve. And last but not least, and part of the reason I picked this game was to see two of my friends fighting each other, this is Revelation, my good friend, who is 716 rated and Cybran in baby blue. So racial mix, we have a Cybran, a UEF and a Sera on each team, and the map. Now at first glance, the map looks like a baby Cetons, but there are two issues here in comparing it to Cetons. One of them is that you can't get land units across here, and you have to creep them around this silly snaky slinky thing here. And the other is that the side islands have a tiny bit of reclaim, but no mexes, so holding them is nowhere near as important. Now, Bercy and X have a problem. They have not many mexes, and naval control obviously going to be huge here. You can get into the water in a couple of places here and here, I think. Actually, you can't get into it here. You have to edge boat here and here. But bombardment is going to be massive, and Bercy has started off with an early naval yard, which he's edge building down there, and he's going to have it finished at 2 minutes 40 something. We have a naval yard queued up here for Chris, and Rev is also going into the water, so lots of naval activity on the left hand side. However, we've got nothing here from Jim, and nothing here from X queued up navally. So this looks like it could be, at first glance, a problem for the hot team. Because on the hot team, the only naval player on this side is Bercy, who has the lowest amount of mexes available to any of the players. And here, Rev, in the carry slot with a vast number of mexes for cold team, as well as Chris, are both getting into the water, so that could be an issue for a hot team. X just expanding here. He's got Engis picking up the reclaim. He's getting out to grab his mexes. He's already upgrading mexes here. He's upgrading multiple mexes at the same time. In fact, is he upgrading all? Oh my. So, normally I'd talk about play of game, but is this the misplay of the game? Look at this, look at this. He is upgrading all his mexes at the same time based only off this eco, and he is not going to be able to get anything done as a result. No wonder he hasn't tried to build a navy yet. Bercy doubling down on his naval production, which I think is sensible given the situation. He's producing a submarine here. And he is not upgrading all his mechs at once. He's also getting engines out here to try and, I imagine, drop the reclaim, yes. But it has been seen by a fighter, an interceptor, from EXO, so that could be an issue. Meanwhile, Bercy has a sub out, and it has seen the Navy from Chris, and it's locking the Navy from Chris. Chris is trying to put up a torpedo here, but he's not doing it very fast with only one engineer. And if Bercy actually fires his subs into this here, he might actually be able... Look at this, look at that, perfect. He's going to be able to deny the production of any subs from this naval yard until his next units arrive. And he must have another sub coming out soon, yes he does. However, Rev also has a sub, and do they know that Rev is in the Navy? They actually don't, so that's going to be an unpleasant surprise for Bercy when that sub arrives. This engineer is getting a little bit, but there isn't actually a huge amount on these side islands to pick up, so while I applaud the drop as a general concept, and this is a reasonable amount of rocks to grab, I don't know how quickly it's going to be able to pay off. This sub needs to come forward fast from Bercy. And it hasn't yet. And now Rev's sub is going to come out and lock this down. Now, given that there were no naval mechs, normally I would have suggested frigates would be the pick on this map to start with, but... And here we have Bercy being forced to engage Rev's sub. Bercy's second sub is coming in, and so he will win the naval duel, but he's then going to have to shut down this naval production. And... Rev is forced back. He will have to shut down this naval production, but he's then going to have to worry about Rev's navy. Now, Rev is a sucker for this. Look at this. He has already started T2 Navy, and he started T2 Navy on 40 eco. That's okay, I guess, but it might set him back a bit compared to Jim eco-wise. However, if he actually gets this T2 Navy up, then with Bercy being forced to stay back here and lock down Chris's navy, and no naval support coming in from Sakol at all, then Bercy might have a problem. Speaking of Sakol though, we've got to look in the middle, where Sakol is advancing with these tanks. But we're going into a quick play-by-play here first. Bercy has brought a frigate, which does more damage to the sub and will definitely shut down this factory. But that frigate has no answer to these subs, and unless he gets this done quickly, then Chris is going to get a torpedo launcher up, and that is going to really spell a problem for Bercy's frigate, and he hasn't got any more navy. We can see on the minimap there's one more frigate coming out. So this will go down, but there are these subs in waiting, and the torp launcher is up, and it is going to hurt this frigate. Is that frigate going to go down, or is... In fact, is this factory actually... This factory actually survived with just 126 hit points as Bercy's frigate goes down. Right, let's go back and see what was happening with Sakol's push in the meantime. And back here in the front line for Chris, Sakol has brought a few tanks in, but Kris's com is here, and this is nowhere near enough tanks to threaten even an unupgraded and naked com. So this is not going to be much of a problem for Chris. And we can just see them popping there. He's trickling them in. In fact, has he... This feels like a mistake. Look, he's got a rally point set right here, and that means the tanks will just trickle in one by one and die. So that's a mistake from Sakol. Rev, though, is doing something that is, in my opinion, a bad habit of his. He has gone very fast for Cyber and T2 Navy. Now, Cyber and T2 Navy is powerful, sure, but he has done it at a slight cost to his eco. Look at this, he's got 49 eco, whereas his mirror, Jim, has, or had a second ago, 57. Though I think Jim might be having power problems at this very moment. Chris starts the gun, but immediately pauses it, and you can see why. He has no way of affording it with his power, because he's also, at the same time, going for a T2 land upgrade. You should focus on one or the other at once, and to be honest, he doesn't really have the power production for either. And Sakol is bringing his comm forward, so this could actually be a big problem for Chris, who is injured. If Sakol just walks in, then he might get the damage, but this will be the salvation for Chris. X has walked up with his comm and can just shoot at Sakol, driving him back. And now this is a fight between X and Sakol, while Chris just stays out of the way very slowly, getting his upgrade. Has Sakol overextended? He might have done. And it looks like he agrees he's going to fall back. Rev's first destroyer comes off the production line, and Bercy, meanwhile, he can't even afford to start T2, and he's getting a little bit of a navy up here. But Bercy only has 7 mexes. Rev has 12, and so he's been able to afford teching up a lot more. But we did mention, look at that, the eco difference between Rev and Jim is now 53 to 67, and that's because Rev put so much in here. Bercy has actually dropped a few units here, a few energies to try and get some reclaim, but the Mongeese clean them up quite quickly. Sakol again advances. Chris locked to the spot. Can he actually afford that gun upgrade? He absolutely can't. Look at that eco-catastrophe. So that's going to take him a long time, and he's forced to pause it again. But he's looked to the spot, and Sakol has arty firing at him, and that is a real killer. Chris needs to cancel, or he's dead. And where's Exo gone? Well, Exo's just down here. Chris is not happy with that, indeed. And you can see why, but Chris is now just going to die for free because he didn't cancel his gun upgrade after starting it with absolutely no eco. Boom. So normally I nominate player of game, but this game I might have to nominate misplay of game, and that's our first contender. Meanwhile, Rev's destroyer is in a position to make life really difficult for Hot Team. Bercy's navy is here, and he calls it back to try and focus down Rev's destro, although that does have a bit of submarine support. And in it comes, the naval fight goes down. But that destro is just not taking the damage, and Rev also has a cruiser covered by a stealth boat coming in here. And this is brutal. Bercy's navy is cleaned up in seconds, and Rev's T2 navy is now free to wreak havoc on this side of the map. Despite being injured, Sakol's comm has a decent number of tanks backing him up. He's pushing in on the production that X has inherited from Chris. There is T2 production here, and it is producing Mongeese, but this is quite a lot of tanks. Sakol's problem, though, is that they're all swarming in one by one, and that's an issue. Sakol groups it up. Meanwhile, though, X has got his uninjured comm here, who could really make a difference here, especially if he coordinated his counter-attack with the Mongeese, and we do still have the gravestones from the April Fool available. Skill issue indeed. The Mongeese open up on Sakol, but I don't think. No, Sakol does not have overcharge, and that's going to be a big problem for him. I am reasonably sure that XO, as we can see up there, does have overcharge. However, this is a lot of tanks from Sakol, and even with the injured comm, it might be enough to swarm him down if he just pushes in right now. And it looks like he's going to do just that. Is he going to die? We'll find out in just a second. Meanwhile, though, we can see Rev's Navy is advancing on Bercy's production, but Bercy is trying to sneak these engineers over here to set up a cheeky naval yard that Rev, hopefully for Bercy, can't see. However, I do not think that this naval production is going to survive very long. Oh, come on, it's got 100 hit points left. Shoot it once more. There we go. But meanwhile, Jim has got T2 naval production on the other side. So that could change the game. Back to Sakol as he tries to chase down X. But these monkeys are causing him problems. X is damaged. Can Sakol take it? There's nothing actually stopping X keeping running here, but Sakol chooses not to take it and turns back. Could that have been a lucky escape for X? Ah, well, he's now got a different plan, and look at this. That is a Notha fighter bomber dropping bombs on Sakol, and there is absolutely no air support for Hot Team at all. Bercy has got gun on his comm and is bringing it forward to help out on the front lines, but that's not going to help if both he and Sakol could be picked off by the Nothas. The next bomb falls on Sakol, taking him down into the red, and where is the air support? I'm not seeing any of it. Meanwhile, Bercy's eco has a problem, and that problem, as is so often the case, is Rev. Look at this, he's losing his mexes, his very few and far between mexes, and he is not gonna have an easy time of it. But his comm, meanwhile, on the front line with Sakol. So let's go straight back to where they were on the front line as a bomb takes Sakol down to just 400 hit points, and the next one is falling. Boom! Sakol ejected at 14 minutes 20. And Bercy, well, he hasn't got air support either. What's he going to do? He's going to inherit these tanks from Sakol, and they are actually getting damage done. Look, they're taking out a mech here, a T2 Cat mech in the base that used to belong to Chris. But these are all T1, and Rev has another cruiser here. Because of the fast fire rate on a Cybran cruiser, Cybran cruisers are actually really great at clearing up T1 land spam or hover spam. And so I don't think these are going to last. I don't think they're even going to last long enough to take down the HQ. And meanwhile, Bercy is also under attack from the Notha fighter bombers. Is he going to survive? He's dodging. But the bombs rain down. I thought he was going to die there. Oh. Well, now he is. Boom! Bercy also ejected just a few seconds, really, after Sakol. He has taken out the T2 land HQ here, which is nice. But, on the minus side, he's dead, leaving Jim all on his own against the armed might of Code Team. And Jim has lost a lot of eco up here to that bombardment we looked at just a moment ago. And there's more bombardment going on here. Look, T2 mechs that these naval units can just pick up for completely free. However, we did note that Jim had started T2 Navy, and look at this. He has destroyers coming out into the pond over here. A cruiser would be nice, and there is a cruiser, because that would defend it against the air control that EXO is absolutely showing at the moment. Notha's pausing a little bit to pick up T1 tanks, but that's not really a great use for them, especially as the very few inties belonging to Jim are in the area. And the shoreline is just being bombarded completely unopposed here. T2 artillery positioned here might be a good choice, but we need to look at these Nothas because they are coming in, and I think they're trying to pick up these mass points over here. One capped T2 mechs goes down in a wave of Notha fire, but he's not coming back for another pass. Where's he going? I don't know where he's going. Oh, that's a mistake. The shield is down and he's targeting the air factory. That damage could have destroyed this. And the Northers have been cleaned up by the flak. Okay, that's my second contender for misplay of game. Not bombing out this power and instead bombing this essentially meaningless T1 air factory. Which, even if he had destroyed it, which he didn't, would have been very, very cheap to rebuild. Jim's Navy now bombarding X's eco. X is trying Northers again, but there's this cruiser here, and that can easily pick up the Northers. X cannot afford to lose all these mexes, but I think he's going to nonetheless. And this is going to be a problem for X. Meanwhile, up here, Rev has found the cheeky naval yard that Percy dropped. Does he know about this one? Jim, however, isn't using it for anything, so whether he knows about it or not doesn't really matter, and Rev does know about it. Look, he's going to go in and destroy that without any problems. So let's go back and look at the ecological destruction that Jim is raining down on X's eco. However, is Jim power stored? I think he must be. Yeah, he is. Look at that. That is painful, and he needs to get P-gens up fast. It's because he's tech. No, he hasn't turned up the shields, he just put too many shields, but he's got lots of P-gens queued up, but... Oh, that's right, because he's going for the T3 upgrade at the same time. Too many things going on at once that spend power. Building a P-gen and going for a T3 upgrade, that's going to hurt, and he can't afford to lose any more eco. Look at this, Rev's Navy actually can range the T2 land HQ here, as well as these mexes, so, Jim losing a lot. However, X has also lost 3 T3 P-gens. However, he's just not got the build power anymore. Look at this. Why is this not building? Chris spamming out suggestions to his teammates to drop things, but drop with what? Rev's only got T1 air, and X's eco has been completely smashed and is being smashed even harder as his next mex goes up in smoke. Well, here's another candidate for misplay of game. X, who cannot afford anything right now. Well, he can, but he can't. He's overflowing mass because he's not putting his build power into the right place, but he's upgrading 2 naval factories to HQs at once. This is terrible play, and I can see that why he wants one, even though Rev's already won Navy on this side. He wants to get tactical missile cruisers out, and that could be good. But 2 HQs at once, that is not good, especially when he's just lost all his power production here, and now he's losing power despite overflowing mass, and that is a really, really bad situation to be in. Meanwhile, Rev is not content to be confined to one pond, and he is going naughty, walkie across the centre with 4 5th Salem destroyers. And Jim's Navy is all up here, punishing the eco belonging to X, so Jim might actually be caught out if he doesn't see this coming, and he will only see it when it gets out of the range of Rev's shield, but he doesn't see it at all yet. So that could be a very unpleasant surprise for Jim, and he hasn't got any scouting going on. His air factory is only producing engineers. Where are his scouts? He needs to know what's going on. What do they know at the moment? Jim knows only what's in the range of his cruiser radar. And a couple of things over here, because I think he does have sonar, and I don't see the sonar. Oh, there it is. He's got sonar there. And Code Team know that there's some shields being upgraded, and they don't know about the T3 land factory, but other than that, quite a bit of knowledge is actually lacking for both teams in terms of what the other side is doing. Well, Rev has gone for T3 Navy and is putting together a battleship that will have bigger range than the Destros, but it won't range everything, and I do feel that he would have done better investing in T3 Air at this point. That's GG, says Chris as the Salems walk across. But is he right? These destroyers are doing some damage, but Rev's destroyers have outnumbered and outpositioned them, and these subs aren't going to do much. Jim is trying to bring back his navy in order to clear it up, and he might kill a couple of these destroyers, but these destroyers can A, range this eco now, and B, could even try and take out the naval yard, which Jim has had to pause. He desperately rushes out a cruiser. Okay, that's not the right choice when there were 2 destroyers coming into your base. And while these destroyers have gone down and Jim is bringing in his navy to sandwich it, these guys could do a lot of damage. Smashing up the engines producing all these engines could die to these destroyers in a flash, and that would be brutal if we were able to do that. Cruiser comes out, but that's just going to die to destroyer torpedoes. However, this feels like a bit of a mistake. He's not using the destroyer's range. See, the cruiser just dies. And the destroyers are going to die. However, Rev is going on land with this destroyer. And, oh, lovely reclaim order from these engines picks it up. And this destroyer being on land, this is an absolute mistake. This is another misplay, because we'll see in a second how this turns out when that destroyer inevitably dies to the brilliant reclaim and destroyer fire combination. This destroyer has left about twice the mass, or at least like a little. These were both going walkie-walkie, and here's the destroyer in the water. They've left 900 mass. Here's the destroyers up here. Left like 1620 mass. So that's because it was on land. The units that die in the water leave less reclaim. So that was Rev basically walking onto land to give free mass to his enemy. Now Jim has started T3 Navy in response, but Rev has already got T3 Navy, and he's probably already got a battleship out. Yes, he has. There it is. Creeping forward there. Will it be able to range significantly more though, especially now that his destroyers that just sneaked across the land bridge have taken out the eco here? I don't know. Also, with only 160 eco, that's a little early to be going into T3 Navy, honestly. And the ecos are actually quite level at the moment between the teams. Jim needs to remember that he lost a mech there to the Nothers. But this is another interesting play. I actually quite like this. So the UEF have access to missile cruisers. So Jim has put down a UEF factory here, and given the assistance he's got around, I reckon he's going to be going for missile cruisers after taking up this factory. And that could be worse. And the battleship here, well, it will match Rev's battleship. Again, I don't know that if he's got missile cruisers that it's actually worth building a battleship here, but it's what he's doing. X has come forward with his comm to try a little bit of presumably rebuilding well, but he comes under destroyer fire, takes some damage, he's down to half health, he's going to back off there. Is he going to survive it? Probably. I don't think the destroyers are going to hit him enough. Rev and Chris are arguing about terminology, about whether they should drop or land, but I think they're suggesting that they do a drop here, and I mean that wouldn't necessarily be a bad idea, because what has Jim got that can touch this? If he gets a battleship out, he'll have a battleship that can touch it, but that battleship is not finished yet. And here's Rev's battleship up front now, and it can range this area. This mech would be a nice pickup, and I think he might be able to reposition to range it. Yeah, oh yeah, he can easily range it. Look at the range of that battleship. What else can he range? These mechs are also within range of the battleship, so, and if he gets it round here, even more could be, so maybe I was wrong to dismiss that battleship, though I do still think he went for it a bit too early. And Jim is about to get out his own battleship. So we have both teams, if we have a quick look at the map control, denied a huge area of their base by the opposing navies. So now we're sort of in a standoff game here. Rev has T3 land. Jim has T3 land. What are they going to do with it? I mean, brick drops would be a nice choice for either team. The double HQ cruiser production from X has yet to pay off because he doesn't have the eco really to afford even single HQ cruiser production, let alone this. And any attempts made by X to retake his reclaim or mexes here are being met with destroyer fire. Use stealth, says Chris. He's not scouting. Chris certainly has a lot to say here. Are Code Team paying attention to it? It seems not. And here's the first of those UEF cruisers we were talking about. Because, okay, I was wrong. It looks like EXO is producing these things. Destroyers. And why would he even bother? They've won Navy in this pond. He needs long-range missile bombardment, like this, in fact. This is the correct choice if you have a UEF naval HQ in this situation. Jim has made it. X definitely hasn't. And look, see, Jim's using that range to just pick off these mexes belonging to X. This would be a hilarious target. This is a mistake that less experienced players often make, putting large banks of, I've forgotten the name, energy storage next to power generators, and if one of those gets hit and taken out by a tactical missile, or if this one thing goes up, I think we might see a hilarious chain reaction. At the moment, X is horrifically mass stored, because of this, and he's actually got power from these. But if he loses them to the tactical missiles that we see coming in from that cruiser, which suddenly change to focus on the mechs, then I think we'll see X having quite the problem as he loses that mechs there. However, we have shields going up to try and defend from the battleship, but look at Rev's battleship doing damage here. These mechs is all taken out, and that is really good. And where is well, these mechs are already all taken out. No, they're not. That's these mechs. What am I talking about? This battleship needs to come here and range them. Boom! There we go. Look at that. Well, as soon as one thing goes up there, everything goes up, and now X is would be struggling a lot for power if he weren't struggling even more for mass. I want you to look at that number and cringe. Finally, though, he gets a cruiser out that might do some useful work against these things around here. However, this battleship is now working its way round from Jim, and these mexes belonging to Rev are going to be in trouble. Meanwhile, though, Rev has a nuke sub out, and it's building a nuke. And Rev probably has the eco to afford it. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. However, it looks like the nuke sub missiles are targeting the battleship here, and Jim has moved it back. That means he's not exactly ranging these mexes. However, the cruiser barrage is quite significant and does take out one of the mexes. One TMD isn't going to stop it as the cruiser numbers build up. So far we have 3, and I'm sure there are going to be more. However, this looks like it's just going to be a bombardment for a little while, so I'm sure you won't object if I speed the game up briefly. And the ecos are actually quite similar, with Jim having a slight lead, although he might lose a bit more here under that battleship bombardment. Tactical missile defenses and shields doing the job here. Shields doing the job mostly up here. Rev's bringing bricks forward, and we'll look at them in just a second. Okay, I think it's time to slow down again and zoom in. So, this group of bricks could do work. It could come up, because there isn't really much to stop it here. And Rev's nuke sub that we saw, where's that? How's it doing? Well, it's not loaded yet, as he works on another. It's not loaded yet, but it's nearly loaded. However, there is SMD, which is definitely loaded in Jim's base, so Rev's going to have to find a good target for that nuke sub. What's the range on that SMD? Well, it does cover everything that's Jim's actually got developed anymore, so I don't know if Rev's nuke sub will be the winning play he wants it to be. He is working on a second, and 2 nukes at once could possibly overwhelm an SMD, although this one does have 2 shots in it, and I think it takes more than 2 to overwhelm an SMD by weight of numbers. And meanwhile, Jim is working on T3 RT, T3 static RT. Another mech or 2 has gone down to the cruiser bombardment, but look at the bank of TMDs that are now defending from the incoming fire. These loyalists are also quite fun in that if he puts them here, then they will actually deflect a few of the incoming missiles. However, he's put them too far back to be of any real use. Though you can actually see, look, there's a couple of missiles flying back at the cruisers. However, the cruisers have their own tactical missile defense to counter the returned fire. In fact, these cruisers, UEF cruisers, Cybran cruisers, of which there might be a couple in here. Yeah, like this one can similarly return fire. Rev's bricks are advancing, and this could be what we need to see, essentially. That's now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 missile cruisers, but they're not breaking through the combination of shields and tactical missile defenses that Rev has up. And this battleship really needs to come here and lay down some firepower. Because if the battleship were able to break through, take out a shield, take out a tactical missile defense or 2, then I think this would be enough to do the deed. Meanwhile, Rev's bricks have stopped advancing. Why are they not coming forward? The sooner they strike, the better. This would be an excellent pickup. I don't think they'd be enough to kill the comm, but they would definitely be enough to kill the SMD if they got there. They certainly can't be dropped in now, because look at this bank of SAMs that Jim has created. The RT has been spotted. Chris is asserting that it's easy to defend against. But Chris has been asserting a lot of things this game. And the bank of cruisers has stopped trying to break through here and is coming up here to make a mess for ExVOron again. And taking out ExVOron's power there, that's a good choice, because ExVOron is having huge power problems. He can't spend the mass he's got because he's got such power problems. And look at this, he had to finish that, but there's the first nuke. And it's going straight for the middle of this base. That is not getting through. There are 3 nukes in this clip. Unless these Brits can get in here and kill this in time. I think that Rev has, for want of a better word, fired a bit too early. The bricks are coming in. They can see them coming. And Cerberus point defenses are going up fast. Please tell me, yes, we're producing bricks here now. But it may be too little too late. Jim's comm needs to get overcharging. Does Jim have overcharge? Surely he does. Yes, he does. He's got a load of overcharge. Look at all of this. So, Jim can overcharge. The shields are blocking. The bricks are blocking. And the nuke is shot down. The SMD is focused. That was obviously Rev's plan, but it came too little too late. And the SMD is taken down. That is going to hurt because Rev has that nuke sub still, and Jim will have to really, really rush an SMD if he wants to finish it up. Rev's bricks are going down. They're not going to take out anything else important, but now, where's that nuke sub and how's it loading? Here it is, and it's already quite well loaded. And indeed, I think Rev has a second nuke sub now. They're both loading. Is that a problem? Yes it is. Rev is quite hard power stored to the extent where he can't spend his mass. That's also a problem because nukes load exceptionally slowly when power stored, and as a result, they're essentially lowest on the priority list, and Rev's remaining bricks are not going to get through thanks to this naval defense from Jim. So we're seeing multiple SMGs going up here. Jim really needs to focus one of them, this one for preference, in order to get it loaded before the nukes are fired again, but there's a good chance that he will, because Rev is so horrifically power stored. If he paused one of those nuke subs, he would have that nuke off by now and would have won. But he hasn't, so he didn't. And look at this, the RT that he built is crushing Rev's base. We mentioned that, Artie, and it's taken out the P-gens. That's why Rev's power stored. It's taking out the mixes. Thanks to the power store, we now have Rev below 100 eco compared to Jim over 200. This is brutal, and what Rev needs to do is stop his nuke subs. At least stop one of them. Like, leave this one running because it's nearly finished. Whereas this one is absolutely not. So that's my next contender from this play of game. Will it matter though? Because will Jim be loaded in time? Jim is stalling a bit of mass, but not much, and I think this is the problem. He's building a second nuke defense when he needs to be focusing everything he has on loading this one, and he's not. Rev is continuing to trickle bricks in. Has he just got a gather point here or something? Is that... No, now he's gathering here. Maybe a drop will be wise. Speaking of drops, I haven't really paid much attention to this. Exo has dropped up here in the base that used to belong to Bercy. Will it make a difference? I don't think it will, because Exo has access to only 2 mass and 60 power. But, you know, every little helps, I suppose. He might at least distract Jim from doing what he needs to do, which is loading this SMD, let me tell you. He's actually further along. Okay, now we're getting this SMD loading, and Jim does have the eco to support it. This is good. This is good. But Rev is nearly loaded on this missile sub. And the RT has meanwhile taken out Rev's HQ, but Rev has the navy he needs. He's producing RASCOMs so that his eco, despite the damage he just took, will probably be fine. I say that, but he can't really afford to produce RASCOMs. He's only got 80 eco now. Everything is now relying on this nuke sub, which is loading ever so slowly because of the fact that Rev is now on only 37% mass because he's trying to load 2 nuke subs at once. Actually, it might have been the cruiser which took out that HQ. Either way, good work from Jim, who is wrecking Rev's base. But the missile sub is almost loaded and in position. How is Jim doing on loading? Oh, well, he's still some way away. And it's all going to come down to the consequences of Rev's mistake. This mistake. I have often told you before that games played among players of my sort of rating, like this, are not won by the winners, they are lost by the losers. If Jim wins this game, it's because Rev built 2 nuke subs and tried to load them at once. If Rev wins this game, it's because Jim built this SMD as well and didn't focus on this one. And here it's gonna be so close. Look at this. This nuke defense is so nearly loaded. Is it gonna be loaded in time? Is it gonna be loaded? No, it is not. Boom! With just seconds in it, Rev's nuke gets through the strategic defense. It kills Jim, and the game is over with just seconds in it. What a match! I very meanly commented on a big bunch of misplays, but what was the play of game? Tell me your thoughts about that. As for most valuable player? Good question. I mean, Rev's navy did win the left early, and so he might have to take the prize. But Jim holding up the entire side for quite some time, that's also pretty good. Tell me what you think in the comments below. While you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and obey. I'm TheCommissar, and I will see you next time.